You know, I've had a lot of fantastic waves in my life. I've had a lot of incredible waves that have sort of stuck in my mind. I think one of my two greatest rides was actually behind someone else. I was sharing a wave with this amazing surfer, 4 times world champion, one of the greatest surfers of all time, a guy called Mark Richards. And we had this incredible wave together in Hawaii at a place called Off the Wall. And generally, you'll very seldom see two good surfers on the wave together. I just won the world title. Mark was a great rival of mine and just recently introduced a revolutionary piece of equipment called the twin fin. It was like the next generation of surfboards. I was on a board called the single fin, and Mark and I were kind of having a duel on this particular day. It wasn't a contest. It was a free surf session, one of the best days of the year. We were kind of having a duel as to who was the best guy in the water that day, who was the best free surfer in the world, and we were having this kind of duel, and we'd had a bit of a back and forth on waves, and he dropped in on me and I dropped in on him, and now it's kind of a long story. But anyway, this great wave came up and we took off on the wave together, and he dropped in on me and I was on the inside position, and I managed to pull up into the tube behind him. So both of us were in the tube together. So getting in the tube is the ultimate moment in surfing. It's the absolute essence of the surfing experience. And to be in the tube behind someone makes it even more difficult and makes the experience even more magnified. So here I was in the tube behind Mark Richards. He thought the wave had wiped me out, and as he came out, I came out with him with the spit. What happens is compressed air builds up in a wave and it spits out, and it came out in the spit, and it was just a huge surprise to me and to him that I made the wave and that he made the wave. And it was an iconic wave for a number of reasons. Obviously because I think it represented, for me, maybe one of the best tubes I've ever gotten, with a great surfer like Mark Richards. And it also represented, I think, a turning point in surfing when the single fin era, which were the boards I was riding at the time, a board with one fin, were on the wave together with the twin fin. And it was like two moments in time. It represented the height of the single fin era, and now the twin fin era was about to start. So from that perspective, it was an iconic wave, and it's become a very famous wave in surfing. So that was one of the greatest waves of my life. I had another amazing wave in Durban, South Africa, which was where I grew up, at a beach called the Bay of Plenty, where I caught my very first wave when I was 9 years old, where my father taught me how to swim. And it was sort of a grey overcast day. I think I was about the only guy on the water. It was big, an 8 to 10 foot day, and I took off on this wave. I was at university in like 1974, and I remember I was riding a longboard, a 7.7 for the time, which was really long, like gun board, like a Hawaiian style board, because the waves were so big. And I paddled into this wave and I took off, and it was a very low tide. They call it spring low tide. So I dropped into this wave, and it was like dropping below sea level. I was actually riding the wave below sea level. The wave was so hollow and it was so shallow, and this wave was solid 10 feet. And I pulled off the bottom and I turned into this tube, into this long tube ride. And what happens when you get these really long tube rides, it goes kind of dark in there, and all you can see is this light that's just shining ahead of you, this sort of escape route. And I remember driving for the escape route, and I thought, there's no way in the world I'm going to make this tube. And I remember doing these turns inside the tube, trying to accelerate for more speed, which at the time was a technique that hadn't been done before. So I was sort of really breaking new ground in that technique. And I remember the wave just raced ahead of me, and then I caught up to it. And as I thought I was coming out, it raced ahead of me again. And as I thought I was coming out, it raced ahead of me again. And then the spit, what happens, all the compressed air builds up in the wave, and it spits, and it spat me forward, and it spat me up into the air. And it spat all the air out of this tube that I was in. So there was this incredible vacuum inside, and I just felt this pressure on my ears, and this wave spat me, and it lifted my board up. So I was actually flying off the surface of the water on my board. So I was like flying through the air, and then my board landed, and then with a big whoosh, I came out of the barrel. And I remember just thinking, man, this is what life is all about.